Okay, and we're back. So, I recently watched the live action TV show, the Star Wars TV show, Andor, and I gotta tell you, I loved it. It is by far the best live action Star Wars TV show, maybe the best Star Wars TV show ever made. So, let's break it down. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
So no Dario again. Sorry. It's gonna be one of those days. I'm not on the road, just driving. But I will do it next time I'm driving. I'm just sitting here in my car, and I figured, let's do a quick Andor thing, because I don't want to get too deep into it, because I don't want to do any spoilers. Because this to me is a must-watch TV show. You have to watch it. It's that good. Not because it's important for the story or anything, just because it's a really good show. It's like the one show I would actually recommend. Now, I also watched Ahsoka recently. It's nowhere near as good. I will do a maybe a deeper Ahsoka dive, because there's a lot there. There's a lot of fun things to consider with Ahsoka, but Andor by itself is an extremely good show. And the reason why it's so good, probably, it's because it's actually sci-fi. The biggest issue that I've had with Star Wars, and really always had with Star Wars, is that it's more of a fantasy than it is sci-fi. Andor is not fantasy. It's set in the world of Star Wars, in the universe of Star Wars, so you recognize things, you recognize people, you recognize characters. I mean, Andor we met in Rogue One, Mon Mothma we've known forever, so there's characters there that you recognize, but it feels completely different. The show's vibe is completely different. It's actually feels like a civil war, like you're seeing a civil war brewing up. It's very reminiscent of, I don't know, I guess how it would feel to the start of the French Revolution, the American Revolution, and that's really fun to watch, but in a sci-fi setting. So it's dark, it's heavy, it's intense. It at very times it's kind of slow, because it's more about the start of the rebellion, because it's good. There's going to be another season for sure, but it's a slow boil, and so it works for the show. So I loved it. But before I continue, let me just give you a quick reminder: like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel. It really helps me out. Also, if you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Dario SDW and at Super Dario World. So the show's fantastic. Like I said, it's phenomenal. It feels like a sci-fi show more than it feels like the other Star Wars shows, a little bit sillier. This is not a show for kids. It's a show for adults, which again is something it was missing from Star Wars. It's too kiddie sometimes, and I get it. It's meant to be a little bit sillier, but whatever. The performances are phenomenal. To me, the true main character of the show, it's called Andor, after Cassian Andor, and Diego Luna does a really good job. But to me, the star of the show is Luthen, played by Stellan Skarsgård. That dude, you love him, you hate him. He's not in the show as much as other characters, but when he's there, he steals it. It's a very interesting character, and he's the character who's, let's just say, stoking the flames of revolution. And it's showing you the real human cost, the true heroes of the rebellion, and the unsung heroes of the rebellion, in a very similar way that Rogue One did it. And it's great, because again, it's an actual war movie. It actually shows you why the atrocities of the Empire, why everybody hated them and why they wanted to get rid of them. And sure, listen, I get it. They blew up Alderaan. That's probably the worst thing the Empire did. But the things leading up to that, the abuse of power, the inefficiency, all that stuff, how they were slowly creeping into your lives. And that's really fun to watch. They also have their own secret police. Well, not secret police, more would be, it's not their CIA, but I guess it would be like the Russian, how the KGB, it would be kind of closer to their KGB, I guess. And they have almost absolute authority. Maybe Homeland Security would be close. I don't know, but it's a department of people who think they're way smarter than they are, and they wield power with tyranny, with tyrannic power. And so it's very fun. It's interesting. You get to see the political side of it, the the people actually taking the risks. For example, Mon Mothma, you get to see her in her role in the rebellion and getting it started. Everything she risked, everything everybody was risking, and so it's fun. It's real. It's heavy. The characters are interesting. The setting is it feels raw. It feels dirty. It actually looks dirty, and so which fits into that world because these are people colonizing planets that are kind of crappy. You get to see the differences in cultures for each planet, which is pretty cool as well. Their lifestyle, the way that they scrape by, all that stuff, which is fun to watch. The action is also pretty cool. Now, I guess the show could be broken down into 3 acts. My favorite one was by far the first act, and I'm not going to do spoilers on this one at all. But I loved everything, with the music and the way it was set up, what the thing was leading to. The second act I didn't love as much. It was interesting, and you got to see a part of the Empire that we really hadn't seen before. The way that they, let's just say, treat a how they did something. I'm not gonna get into spoilers, but it's like, oh, that's interesting. I never even considered how the Empire did X, and so that's fun. It's fun to watch. And then the third act is kind of like shit hits the fan in a way, but it's really fun to watch the way that it happens because it's not like the shot heard around the world, but kind of in a way. Again, it's slow, it's small scale, it's interesting. It's interesting in the small scale because grains of sand add up in a heap, and that's kind of the point of this show. We get to see the grains of sand. Now, in the movies, we get to see not the grains of sand, we get to see the boulders. We get to see the big names, the heroes. We get to see the Jedi doing Jedi things. Here we don't see any Jedi. I don't think they even mention the word Jedi because it's not about that. It's about the people, the grains in the sand. You go in, you get dirty, and the people who took the biggest risks, and so it's really fun to watch. Now, my biggest issue with the show would probably be that, well, not exactly. It's not. This is the main character, Cassian Andor. I'm not a big fan of because he's what you would call a passive protagonist most of the show. But the point of the show is him becoming the active protagonist. So I can't. I mean, I can complain because I'm not a big fan of passive protagonists. But the point of the story is him becoming activated, him being part of the rebellion, which we already know from Rogue One that he's committed to it. But it takes a few minutes for Andor to grow on me. But the thing that I loved from the opening sequence, they show you who this guy is, and this is a guy who is kind of a fuck up, who makes the biggest fuck up of his life, but he's competent and he's kind of a badass. So it's they also show you that he's willing to cross many lines in order to either save himself or get what he wants, which is all right. So this is the character. This is kind of the show, right? This is your main character. He's very competent, just kind of a fuck up, and and he's willing to cross lines, which the rebellion had to do in order to bring down the Empire. They had to cross many lines. And so we get to see the people who not only made the decision to cross the lines, but who set up the people who crossed the lines and who dealt with all the consequences afterwards. So the people who risked everything. Again, it's a very inspirational show in many ways. And again, I felt like I was watching the founding fathers and how they would have handled things, setting up for the American Revolution, the French Revolution, all that stuff. It's interesting. It's raw. It's heavy. And I love in a show when the heroes, when the main characters have every single opportunity to just say no. And again, this is not fit particularly for Andor, but it fits for other characters. The characters have an opportunity. The other ones, the ones who, the leaders of the rebellion have every opportunity and maybe even every motive in the world to be like, no, I do not have to deal with this. I do not have to get into this problem. I can avoid it. I don't need this drama in my life. But they don't. And so they they have their goals, they believe in the greater good, and they just keep going and risking everything, and it's fun to watch. Again, they humanized, they show you a very human side of Mon Mothma, who is a character who you don't really think about much. She's just kind of there. She's always more of a figurehead, I guess. But she actually did stuff, and she actually risked a lot. Again, coming back to it, my favorite character was Luthen by a lot, because he's very much a gray character. You can't say he's either good or evil, but he's willing to cross many lines, and the performance by Stellan Skarsgård is phenomenal. So overall, again, to keep it short, watch this show. All right, if there's anything you can take away from this particular podcast, is watch Andor. Do yourself a favor, watch Andor. You're gonna love it. It's a phenomenal show. It's the best thing that Star Wars has created since Rogue One, right? By far. Did the Clone Wars come out afterwards? I don't know, but all right. If we're talking about Star Wars TV shows, I think this is the best one by far. The one that I would say competes with it would be the animated, the Cartoon Network one, the cartoon one that came out for Clone Wars. But that was really short, doesn't really tell a story. This one, it's very different. It's a very different vibe. So I love that one, but it's a series of shorts. This one, it's a complete TV show. So I think this is the best one by far. There's going to be a season 2, supposedly. I'm very much looking forward to that, so I highly recommend it. As always, like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel. It really helps me out. Comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at DarioCW and at Dario and at Super Dario World. Let me see. What else am I missing? Yeah, I will be doing one for Ahsoka. Like I said, I did watch it. I did not like it as much. I have a lot of complaints, but there's certain interesting things there to discuss, because it does bring up a few interesting elements. Also, a lot of people didn't know if they should watch it because they hadn't watched Clone Wars or Rebels, all that stuff. So I'll get into it. That one I will do a lot more spoilers on, so, heads up. As always, thanks for listening, and I'll see you again next time.